starting in 2018, what has changed regarding Pennsylvania's 1099 withholding requirements?
Under the new state law from Act 43 of 2017, certain payments made to non-residents are subject to Pennsylvania personal income tax. Withholding is required when payments to any payee totals $5,000 or more annually. The withholding tax rate is 3.07 from the gross payment. Withholding applies to payments of non-employee compensation, business income to a non-resident individual or a disregarded entity owned by a non-resident individual are to be reported on a 1099 miscellaneous filed with the Department of Revenue. Also, commercial lease payments made in the course of a trade or business to a non-resident individual, estate, or trust, or disregarded entity owned by those type of entities are also subject to the withholding requirement. The law also expands the requirements with respect to when a copy of a federal form 1099 miscellaneous is required to be filed with the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. Anyone that pays Pennsylvania source income to a resident or a non-resident individual, partnership, or single member LLC must file a copy of the federal form 1099 miscellaneous with the Department of Revenue. The copy must include information about the amount of state income tax and state tax withheld on boxes 16 through 18 on the form.
Okay, so when is withholding not required?
So withholding is not required when wages are paid to an employee, payments made for goods or materials, sale of real estate that is located outside of Pennsylvania, residential rental agreements or lease payments. Withholding is not required for these type of entities: corporations, partnership, multi-member LLCs, and then non-residents with no PA source income. Disregarded entities as well that are owned by corporations, partnerships, or PA residents are not required to withhold.
So if I would pay independent contractors who are not Pennsylvania residents, what are my responsibilities?
Well, you must withhold the tax. If you're doing an evaluation of whether or not you need to withhold, you need to make sure that the payments are Pennsylvania source income and you're making those payments to an individual who is a non-resident or to a disregarded entity that is owned by a non-resident of Pennsylvania. And if you expect the total amount of the payments to the independent contractor to be over $5,000 annually, you'll have to withhold. And when you do so, you must file a federal form 1099 miscellaneous with the Department of Revenue as well.
So if the withholding requirement applies, what does the law require you to do?
You should apply for a 1099 miscellaneous withholding account by completing a PA 100, the Department's Pennsylvania Enterprise Withholding Form. You can find that link to the form by visiting the Department's website, www.revenue.pa.gov, or by visiting the PA 100 website. You will be required to electronically file quarterly withholding returns and an annual reconciliation with the Department's eTides system, the Department's electronic business tax filing system. You will also be required to electronically remit money that is withheld through eTides. The Department will evaluate your remittances annually, and it may change your remittance frequency. You will be liable for any taxes withheld in the same manner as an employer withholding compensation account. You will also be liable for any taxes not withheld in the same manner as an employer withholding compensation account. If you currently have an employer withholding account with Pennsylvania, you may use that account to report and submit withholding. A separate 1099 miscellaneous account is not necessary. Your remittance frequency would be the same as your current employer withholding account. It would not default to quarterly.
So if I manage properties for out-of-state owners, what are my responsibilities?
At a minimum, you must provide the lessee with information about the lessor, the out-of-state owner, so that the lessee can properly withhold and remit withholding. As a management company, you may choose to withhold on lease payments as an agent for the lessee. If you choose to do so, you become jointly and severably liable for the lessee for that tax withholding. But ultimately, the law requires that the lessee is the one liable for the withholding.
So how do I know if I should withhold taxes?
you should check the department's website where there is information on non-resident withholding. If you make any payments that fall within the withholding requirement, payments to non-employee compensation, business payments, or commercial lease payments, you will need to determine who you are paying. Use the department's Rev 1832 to help you determine who you are paying. If your payee, lessor, does not provide a valid reason for not withholding, you should withhold the tax until you receive the proper form completed.
So let's just say I learned about the new law, or I haven't been withholding under any circumstances so far in 2018. What should I do?
You will need to do an evaluation of whether your payments are going to meet the withholding requirement threshold. If they do, you will need to determine what you expect your total annual payments to be. If your total payments to a payee lessor will be less than $5,000, you have the option to decide to withhold or not. If the total amount for the payee lessor will be $5,000 or more, or you expect the payments to be less than $5,000 and something happens and you end up paying more than $5,000, you should attempt to withhold tax due from any subsequent payments. Also, obtain a properly completed Rev 1832 for any payee that you have to determine you should not have to withhold upon. Those you should keep for your records.
So there's only so much we can cover in a short video. If our members have more questions, where can they go for help?
The department has developed guidance online at www.revenue.pa.gov to explain what the law requires regarding non-resident withholding. There is a link on the department's website to frequently asked questions, also concerning non-resident withholding. But ultimately, if you get in a bind, you can always call 717-787-8201, and a representative at the department will help you.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate your time trying to help us make sense of a very complicated issue. So, thank you.
Thank you.